Before we get to the next song, just some quick questions. I know I'm excited to talk to you guys. You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this first, just in that first song that you played. My wife, who's here, Suzanne, is from upstate New York. The lyric about Adirondacks and lightning bugs, is this a personal experience? How does that factor into the song? What's the story with that?
It is. It's a recollection of a thing that happened when we were on tour. We played a thing called Mountain Jam, which is up in like Hudson area, and so we were like in the general vicinity of the Adirondack Mountains, and we were kind of going up and on this sort of walk home from a mini golf course that we had been playing earlier in the day.
Remember it well.
It's quite romantic, and the whole group was kind of going up, and there was this moment where we're like walking past this graveyard, and John just like runs into the graveyard,
like moth to a flame.
And so I'm like, okay, let's go in here, and he's chasing lightning bugs or fireflies, and I'm like, this is cool. I mean, because we don't have them on the West Coast.
No, we don't.
I'm like, I immediately follow John into the graveyard because it's like, I don't know, I want to experience this too. And it was this like really cool moment of just kind of being quiet in this graveyard and kind of stalking lightning bugs and just being like in this just fun, carefree sort of just freeze frame of life, and one of those little small joys in the middle of the chaos of tour and the road and all this stuff, where you kind of like zoom into like, the microcosms that are there, and so it was like, it felt like a really cool like moment, a bonding experience, male bonding between John and I.
Nothing says fun and carefree like a cemetery at night. I mean, it's just
some mini golf,
welcome,
some lightning bugs. Yeah, and so anyways, it kind of like worked its way into the bridge of this song. It's one of those, this song lyrically just spilled out of nowhere. It's one of those ones where you're like, some songs it takes 10 years to write, and some songs take 10 minutes. And this was one of those ones where like that whole imagery that happened in the bridge was just like me, like for some reason conjuring that, and it felt appropriate because it's sort of talking about, relationships and vulnerability, and right. our whole thing, as a band is always, we probably talk about it too much, but it's a dynamic thing that you have to like work through and stuff, and so like, I don't know, that just felt like a cool like tender moment to bring into this song. And
the latest album, Every Shade of Blue, that the song is on, this is an album which, you guys worked on it during the pandemic, but it was kind of, I understand some of the songs from it were also maybe intended for Living Mirage, didn't make it onto that album, and then sort of segued over to this album. How did that work exactly as far as the whole songwriting went? Like, what did you decide to include or shuffle around, if you will?
I think there definitely were songs that were written before, the pandemic. Maybe there were ones that didn't make Living Mirage. I always kind of forget. But for this album, we kind of threw everything in the kitchen sink in it, which felt appropriate because of just how, it's almost like the needle of like 100 to 0 was wavering every single day in the pandemic. I mean, your ups and downs, your ability to predict what was going to happen in a week was just so scattered, and I think the emotional spectrum was also explored quite fully through those 2 years, and so we kind of threw everything we had on this record, just because it's almost like you wanted to like put it all in this box, lock the heat, and get rid of it.
Sure.
And go buy it. It's a great album. But in all honesty, like emotionally, it just felt nice to like, I don't want to have any leftovers after this.
Sure.
Let's really just say it all, and then go tour on it.
Nice.
And I don't know if I answered your question specifically.
No, yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, and I feel like it, represents the times, like the chapter, and as any art does, you have to put it out, and it's going to represent that time, even if you want to keep working on it, which you always do. But it's just this capsule of so much that we went through, and there's so many different writing styles of us living in different cities and, working from our homes, then eventually getting together. But it's such an array, such a myriad of things, and it represents all of that, and each of us as songwriters, it's just kind of the full scape of the band, which the Head and the Heart is a very, interesting band.
Absolutely. Charity, I actually got the chance to talk to you a few months ago
Yes.
on a Zoom call, which is, a sign of the times. You were telling me that you guys actually had the foresight to build a studio shortly before lockdown happened. So, you say you worked on things remotely, but you also had the opportunity to get together as a band as well and put things together. How much of the actual writing did you do? Is it like a garage on your, by your house?
Yeah, it's
Describe the
essentially a
studio.
detached garage. Yeah, that Maddie and I, it literally finished in like February of 2020.
Wow.
And we're thinking, we're about to, put this record out and we'll go tour on it and never see this place, this special place. And then it was just like our home for 2 years, So that was incredible. And then everyone else kind of had the privilege and luck to have kind of these detached spaces. Other than you living in San Francisco in a loft, you had the worst spot with like concrete walls.
My wife and I had just decided to move into a loft.
Yeah.
And there are no walls in lofts spaces. And so I'm not the only one that's working from home. My wife is also working from home, and she has much more of like a 9-to-5-er, which becomes like a 9-to-9-er during the pandemic times.
Sure.
So yeah, it was a really interesting. I mean, just learning how to like have communication skills to be able to like work things through like that is its own 2-hour segment we can get into. But learning how to make use of your space and time together as a band, but then also with your interpersonal relationships, I think comes out in the writing on this record.
Speaking of time, it's been some time since we've seen you guys live here in town. We're super excited for the show. It's at Edgefield tonight, which is we're so thrilled. We're happy to
so
have you guys back.
excited.
We at Charity, when you and I talked, you were sort of in the initial stages of figuring out what the live show was going to be like. You were talking about set design and things like that. Can you give us a hint as to what we could expect to sort of see when you guys play a few hours from now? What's that going to look like?
Oh man. Well, I think our approach this time around was really to kind of create. I don't know. I think the lighting and production is really. We wanted to not do kind of the standard, band under lights thing, and we have this incredible lighting designer, Anders, who kind of helped design all of this, and it just feels like it creates a really there's special moments throughout the set, and it feels really artistic and adds to, I think, the drama and the emotions of the songs themselves, and in a cool way, and it's really beautiful too, just when the sun's going down and those lights come up and they work together.
If we were on the East Coast, we'd see some fireflies.
Yeah. Which we do in our set. If you've come, we've kind of been been consistent with the.
Is there a graveyard also? Can we look forward to that?
Just a really cheesy
I knew there was
graveyard.
something missing, and that's the missing
I'm
element.
thinking like a Nightmare Before Christmas kind of vibe,
Starve.
And Stones on stage. I love
We
that
should
idea.
get that. That's a great idea.
No, that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. Well, it's the Head and the Heart, everybody. We're looking forward to seeing you tonight at Edgefield. And again, thank you so much for coming to play the KINK Live Studio.
Thank you for having
So
me.
So
much.
we'll let you get back to some
Yeah,
more
we-
songs. But everyone, let's hear it for them. The Head and the Heart.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you guys.